President Donald Trump is putting pressure on the social media giants, issuing an executive order, and he intends to use cartel law and antitrust laws to ascertain whether or not the social media giants have been abusing their position, have formed a cartel, and that these social media giants try to influence the elections. Now, this is a very complex case, and this is very, very touchy. I understand that. And but there are things that you don't hear either in mainstream media nor in the so-called alternative media about all of this. Now, we've seen the internal documents from these Facebook and Twitters and Googles and all that, and there's stuff leaking on a regular basis. We've seen the latest batch of emails from Google people who said that, well, maybe we just game our search results. And studies have shown Google can theoretically manipulate elections because they decide what's in the search results on the first 3 pages where everybody looks, and however you tweak the algorithm, that's what people are going to read, and that's what's going to influence their decision. Then, of course, you have psychometrics. That was that became a very public issue when Facebook kind of sort of sold its data. Facebook sold its data to Cambridge Analytica, and they used it to micro-target people, meaning an algorithm determines your personality, it measures your personality, it can predict you, it knows you better than you know yourself, the more you use the internet. And so that can be used by Democrats and Republicans. Okay? Then, of course, you have the purge on YouTube and Twitter and places like this. But that's also a more complicated issue. More complicated than you think. And so now, there is the specter of the Trump administration establishing regulations for these tech media, social media giants. Places like InfoWars are happy about this because they think it's going to benefit them, or it's going to benefit the Republicans, it's going to benefit Donald Trump, right? So, and of course, for a moment you might be happy about that. And for a moment you might think this helps you as a conservative, right? The White House comes in, uses its power, and establishes regulations. Facebook, Twitter, and Google. So they don't discriminate against conservatives abusing their monopoly or their oligopoly. But the internet was never about regulations. The internet shouldn't be regulated like this, because if you can regulate Facebook, Twitter, and Google, you can regulate everything. And so, if there's going to be a new law for regulations, it's going to be very long, impossible to understand for anybody who's not a specialized lawyer, and it's going to be sweeping powers for government. This is exactly what we don't want. And maybe this is all part of the larger game plan. Maybe this is all part of the plan. So, Facebook, Twitter, and Google, they foster a left-wing culture in their companies, in their offices. We know that. And they politically lean, or seem to lean, towards the left, towards the Democrats. But if you actually go back and look at the history of these corporations, suddenly their roots seem to be firmly with some very creepy, powerful circles. So Facebook, of course, the story with Zuckerberg and his powerful friends, and there's these CIA allegations, and Google, and certain ties to the NSA and whatnot. Now, when we're talking about the NSA and the CIA and certain billionaires behind it and networks behind it, then we're talking about sort of the classic right-wing deep state, okay? I mean, ultimately, there's only one deep state, which is running everything, but these corporations where they come from, this looks like the stereotype right-wing deep state. But now these companies pretend to be on the left. Okay, well, if there's only one deep state, really, one establishment, they can play both sides, you know? These tech companies, they come possibly from the NSA and the CIA, but then they act like they're left-wing to fool people. And so, magically, these companies, even though their products are not that good or not that exclusive, right? So for some magical reason, these companies take over most of the internet, they become dominant, and then they sort of abuse their power or whatever, and then the government, which is, or the establishment, where everything comes from, we're talking about this technology and the corporations, so then the same government, the same establishment says, oopsie, now we need regulations, now we need to regulate the internet. This sounds way too much like it was planned out. This sounds way too much as if the current step, the current stage was pre-planned and Trump doesn't really know it, or Trump doesn't get it or whatever. Trump is just following orders. He just thinks that it serves his purpose and his people, these other people are going to work out the regulations. And bam, you're in the trap. Everybody is sitting in the trap. So be very, very careful about this. And let's not forget, Donald Trump probably won the election because of social media. Donald Trump won the election probably because of algorithms. Now, the true role of Cambridge Analytica is very much debated, and a lot of this technology is secret. So there are different levels and versions of this algorithm that measures your personality. So far, it's only admitted that you're being measured in terms of your you being extroverted or introverted and that sort of stuff. But imagine if an algorithm like this incorporates personality disorders or spectrums of personality disorders. How narcissistic are you? How psychopathic are you? How paranoid are you? How emotionally unstable are you? If that gets measured, then of course you can really pinpoint people's personality, and then you can target them with whatever you want them to follow. So we've heard that Facebook data run through the Cambridge Analytica algorithm, and I'm sure Facebook has its own algorithms like that, and who knows who else has the data and the best algorithms. So that stuff was run through the algos, and the question was, what does a portion of the voters want? What are they going for? What do they hate? What do they want? What do they fear? What do they like? And so the results were then, those people want the wall between the US and Mexico, they want to drain the swamp, and all these other points that were subsequently used by the Trump campaign as advertising for their campaign. So you measure the people, you tell them what they want to hear, they vote for you, Trump gets to the White House, and then it's all, well, you know, we can't build the wall, there's no money for it, it's going to take forever, and Trump signed the budget that has no money for the wall, or barely any money for the wall, just a bit of new fencing. And there's no draining of the swamp now, this is impossible, there's only swamp people here, so we have to work with the swamp. And so this is how it works. And there's been talk about Russian Twitter bots and Facebook bots and these fake accounts to get Trump, or help Trump get elected, or maybe help Trump get elected. That's also a very, very complex issue. You can't just decide what happened based on your party leanings, right? This is a very complex thing involving another superpower, intelligence agencies, different agendas, and some very, very complex technology. So, yeah, so social media, especially Google and YouTube, and we've mentioned this before when Alex Jones got banned, A former Google technological engineer said that the YouTube algorithm, probably that he worked on, the algorithm probably recommended Alex Jones's Infowars content billions of times to new users. So you're surfing on YouTube and you find something, and then YouTube says, hey, look at these Alex Jones videos. That happened billions of times. Especially over the last couple of years, when Alex Jones sort of changed in very significant ways. He got this free promotion, he got all these free, this free hosting by YouTube, he got all these free advertising by YouTube. And that's also an aspect of this social media thing, right? It is more complicated than you think it is. So social media played a part in getting Trump elected. And now there's regulations coming. And the social media companies or the executives are probably saying, oh no, please don't, or yeah, let's make a compromise, and what you're going to end up with is what was planned in the first place. So I'm really not looking forward to these regulations. What people should do is read more books, stay away from social media, talk to each other, get out this cult mentality, learn how to figure out who can be trusted and who cannot be trusted. Learn about ideas and agendas, what could work, what's less likely to work, and then cooperate. Cooperate for your benefit. This is what you need to do. Don't put your hope in social media if you're on the left. And don't put your hope in regulating social media if you're on the right. This is not a good idea. This is not a good idea. Jones, Infowars, and other places, they have warned for years about internet censorship and internet, or the new internet, and this new control system. And now, of course, Alex Jones says, oh my god, it's here. I've said this for years. It's here. They're banning me of YouTube. But Jones is not a danger to the establishment anymore. He's part of the left-right system. He's promoting Trump. He's promoting the Republicans. He's playing the left-right game. He's pushing old conspiracies. He's pushing terrible new conspiracies, such as Sandy Hook. He's discredited himself very much. He's not a threat to the establishment anymore. And, of course, the establishment was never going to be so blunt with internet censorship. They were never going to come out as both parties saying, we're going to censor this, we're going to censor that, we the two parties, we're just going to make the internet a non-free place. They were never going to play it like this. Instead, they played it like that, what I just described to you. Created these social media monsters. They came from these ultra right-wing roots, and then they became supposedly left-wing companies. And now Jones is calling for regulations. Jones is calling for something he probably doesn't even understand. So as long as you wrap an issue, wrap an agenda into this left-right paradigm, it's going to work in your favor, right? So that's what you need to be aware of. We'll be keeping you updated on the situation, and please like this video, share it on social media, comment down below, and support us on Patreon.